In this video I will explain how to replace the driveline flex disc coupler on BMW 3 Series vehicles. Step number 1. Park the vehicle on a flat surface, set the emergency brake and proceed to lift the car using a floor jack and place jack stands under the chassis in the areas shown in the image for safety. Once the vehicle is suspended, release the emergency brake and place the transmission in neutral. This will make it easier to remove the driveshaft retaining bolts. 2. Place a wooden block over the hydraulic jack and proceed to apply light pressure against the exhaust pipes. 3. Remove the bolts that fasten the exhaust pipes using a ratchet, an extension, and a 12mm socket. If needed, spray penetrating lubricant to remove them more easily. 4. Next, remove the bolts that fasten the metal brackets shown on the screen using a ratchet and a 13mm socket. 5. Remove the 3 bolts the metal brace shown on the screen using a ratchet and a 19mm socket. 6. Remove the brackets and screws that hold the rear part of the exhaust using a ratchet, an extension, and a 13mm socket. 7. Lower the floor jack slightly to gain access to the oxygen sensor electrical connectors, disconnect the electrical plugs and proceed to lower the floor jack all the way to the ground and slide the exhaust pipes out of the way. 8. Remove the screws that fasten the metal heat shield shown in the image using a ratchet and an 8mm socket and proceed to remove the heat shield from the vehicle. 9. Loosen, but do not remove yet the bolts that fasten the center support bearing bracket to the body of the vehicle using a ratchet and a 13mm socket. 10. Remove the 3 screws and nuts that fasten the driveline to the flexible disc coupling at the end of the transmission using an 18mm wrench, a ratchet or impact tool and an 18mm socket. 11. Pry the driveline away from the flex disc coupler slightly using a pry bar or a flathead screwdriver. 12. Next, remove the bolts that fasten the driveline center bearing support bracket with a ratchet and a 13mm socket and proceed to lower the driveline to have better access to the flex disc coupler. To avoid damaging the joint at the other end of the driveline where it connects to differential, hang the driveline using a piece of rope or support it by placing boxes under it. 13. Next, remove the 3 bolts and nuts that fasten the flex disc coupler to the transmission output shaft yoke and proceed to remove the old flex disc coupler all the way. 14. Install the new flex disc coupler in the reverse order it was removed, ensuring that the arrows point towards the driveline on one end and the other arrows point towards the transmission output shaft yoke respectively as shown in the image. Note: make sure that the bolts and nuts are tightened to the specs listed in your owner's manual. Same applies to the bolts that fasten the center bearing bracket. 15. Inspect the exhaust flange gaskets prior to reinstalling the exhaust pipe back on, replace them if needed. 16. Proceed to install the remaining components in the reverse order they were removed, making sure that all the bolts and nuts are tightened according to the specs listed in your owner's manual. 17. Once all the components have been reinstalled, lower the car to the ground and take it for a test drive. If everything works correctly and there are no abnormal noises present, congratulate yourself for having performed a successful repair and for saving money at the same time.